it's me, Poodog3, and a few weeks ago, I went to Universal Studios Orlando's Halloween Horror Nights. Now, I know this is the first time I'm making a video about Halloween Horror Nights, however, this was not my first rodeo. I attended Halloween Horror Nights 2019, 2021, 2022, and 2024, which is this year. So this is my fourth time going to Halloween Horror Nights, which was Halloween Horror Nights 33. If for some reason you've been living under a rock and you don't know what Halloween Horror Nights is, it is Universal's Screamtacular premiere event that they host for every single Halloween, and I absolutely love it. Now, I've never went to any of the Six Flags, Busch Gardens, or Knott's Berry Farm haunted houses, so I really have only local haunted houses to compare it to. But Horror Nights is something special. Somehow, Universal gets a hold of the coolest horror franchises and makes little haunted houses on them, which I'm not engrossed into the Halloween Horror Nights community too much. So I don't know if it's sacrilegious to say, oh, I like the IP houses more than I like the original houses. I mean, some of the original houses are cool, but we're gonna talk about them today. Now, if you haven't went to Halloween Horror Nights, and you're thinking about going, maybe this is the video for you. So let's get into my review of Halloween Horror Nights 33. Now, before I begin, I should explain for the uninitiated what happens at Halloween Horror Nights. You see, there are two categories of scary attractions. The first is a scare zone, which overrides a whole entire area of the park and fill them to the brim with scare actors, aka the people that make you go, ah, and ooh, and the other attraction, of course, is the haunted houses, and there are 10 of these. Although the scare zones only have 5, and we're gonna start with the first one that you encounter when you go into the park, which is Duality of Fear. As soon as you enter Halloween Horror Nights, you must choose a path: the visceral horror of sinister, or the unearthly terror of surreal. Surreal and sinister, both with 3s in their name, yeah, that's how you spell it, are the two twin mascots of Halloween Horror Nights 33. Get it? 3, surreal, sinister, it's a whole thing. However, this scare zone is not too incredibly impressive to me. I think this is because I missed the opening ceremonies. It's not too important to me because I figure if I'm there, I'm probably not gonna see it too well anyway because I'm really short. And I probably can't see over like the 6-foot guy that will magically spawn in front of me. I don't know. To me, whenever I passed through it, which was like the last scare zone I entered in the night, it was just a bunch of guys with chainsaws. It wasn't that scary. I don't even know if the footage I have of it is even picking up. It was kind of dark too. It was really tiny too, because for some reason now Universal has Minions Land, and they don't want to like bleed their scary stuff into Minions Land, which is odd. I don't know. I'm gonna give this a rating of 1.5 Frankenberries out of 5. However, I really don't know how seriously you're supposed to take the Duality of Fear scare zone because I think it's mainly an introduction to surreal and sinister. Because as I said previously, if you go towards the sinister side of the park, then there will be a lot of blood and guts and gore. Whereas if you go to the surreal side of the park, then you will see a lot of mind-controlled creatures. I don't really know what was going on with surreal. So since I know how to talk about sinister more, I'm gonna take the sinister path. If you take the sinister path, you go towards the New York area, which is where I started my night. The next spooktacular area you encounter is A Quiet Place haunted house. Now, I have a hot take for A Quiet Place. A Quiet Place follows the film A Quiet Place, which I haven't seen. I tried to watch all the movies that were based on the attractions. I didn't get to A Quiet Place, so I think that might be the reason I really didn't enjoy it. I don't know. Maybe if I saw the movie, I'd understand it because it was recreating scenes or whatever. But for me, it wasn't too impressive. For it being A Quiet Place, I think this was the loudest haunted house experience I've ever been in. I didn't mess with this one a lot. So for the haunted houses, I'm gonna give them a spooky rating and a fun rating. So my spooky rating, I'm gonna give it a 2. However, for the fun rating, I'm going to give it 3 Frankenberries out of 5. This house had some really cool stuff in it. I don't know what the little creatures from A Quiet Place are, but there was animatronics of them everywhere, and I thought that dedication was really, really cool. And then the only other part that I'm gonna give props to this attraction is the scene where there's like a dock. It felt like I was actually next to the ocean. So I'm gonna give them a point for that. and we're gonna stick with 3 Frankenberries out of 5 for the fun rating. If you walk a little further into the concrete jungle where dreams are made of, then you encounter the next attraction, the Jimmy Fallon ride, aka Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, the Haunted House. This one also follows the movie Ghostbusters Frozen Empire that came out this year, and I did watch this movie. If you couldn't tell by my shirt, I am a big Ghostbusters fan. I like the first 2 movies, didn't really like the 2016 or whatever remake, but I did like Ghostbusters Afterlife and Frozen Empire. Hot take, I like Frozen Empire more than Ghostbusters Afterlife. And since I was just geeking out the entire time and looking at all the cool effects, including the silly little marshmallow men that appear randomly in Ghostbusters Afterlife and in Frozen Empire, I'm gonna give this a spooky rating of literally 1, because I was not scared in this at all. It wasn't really a scary attraction. However, for fun, I'm gonna give this 5 out of 5 Frankenberries, baby, because oh my god, I freaking loved this haunted house. I don't know what they put into the Ghostbusters, but it just taps a certain nerve in my brain that really makes me like it, and it was a great retelling of the movie. I will say though, the guy that was playing Dan Aykroyd's character was, I think, still getting used to his lines, because he was kind of just like, hey, it's me, Dan Aykroyd, I'm here at the haunted house. In the Universal haunted houses, a lot of the scares rely on sound cues, so once they do their sound cue, they're kind of just, ah! They kind of just lock in. I don't know what's going on with that. Go a little down the street and you get your final IP-based haunted house, which was Insidious the Further. Insidious the Further was the haunted house that everyone on my TikTok was talking about when Halloween Horror Nights first opened. It was said to be the scariest haunted house this year, and I 100% agree. The Insidious haunted house follows all 5 of the Insidious movies, which I watched. It's probably not a hot take, but I will be giving this one a 5 out of 5 on the spooky rating. And since I saw every movie and I was geeking out over references, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5 rating. I swear, every single time the lipstick-faced demon shows up in that house, I scream my little toesies off. I don't like the way that guy looks. It gives me nightmares. I could go on a whole rant about how much the Insidious movies make me angry and how they misused probably the only good villain that they ever made in the entire series, because all the other ones just look like zombies. The lipstick-faced demon is the coolest character that the Insidious franchise made, and I'm gonna die on that hill. That guy is creepy. I don't like him. The next haunted house everyone assumes was supposed to be The Strangers, but I don't think that's right, because it was a original haunted house called Triplets of Terror. You're invited to the Barmy Triplets birthday bash, but beware, they celebrate by recreating their family's murders. Prepare for a gory gathering. I don't think I can really spoil the no IP ones, because if you're just a random person who's never heard of Triplets of Terror, you're gonna have no earthly idea what I'm talking about. Some of the things that stood out to me were that there was a really, really fat guy on the ground. I don't know what that was about. That guy kind of scared me. Then there was like a happy birthday sign made out of intestines, which was really gross but sick at the same time. And at the beginning, I like this really cool touch that there was a little mist and it felt like it was on a dark and stormy night. So I think it was a pretty average spooky experience. I'm gonna give it 3 out of 5 blueberries. However, the fun one will be a lot different than probably anyone else, because I had a very unique experience in this haunted house. This guy, who probably doesn't even know I exist, probably didn't even know I was behind him, was having a blast in front of me. Since this is a birthday party themed haunted house, this guy came in with one of those broo, broo, broo things and a birthday hat and was freaking out the entire haunted house, going like, happy birthday, yay! So he got all the scares, and I was kind of just watching him go nuts. And that kind of made my night, I'll be so honest. That guy was kind of awesome. And just for that experience alone, I'm giving this a 4 on the fun meter. And I totally recommend that one of you takes the bullet and brings in party hats for Triplets of Terror. However, finally, we are moving on to the next scare zone, because there was no more haunted houses in this area. Spoiler alert, this scare zone was my favorite, and it was called Torture Faire. Come one, come all, to the Renaissance Fair. Brave the gloriously gory medieval torture devices till you're put out of your misery. I don't know why I love this one. I think it's because I like the Renaissance Fair, and I also really like little creatures and stuff. There was a little wizard guy that kept like jumping in the floor. I didn't get footage of him. There was a guy trying to sell me like guts and knives and weapons and stuff. There were these crazy torture devices that were all over the area. They had these weird bird-looking guys, these cool jester guys. The friggin' Night Flyer was there. The only thing they were missing was like Chapel Roan. Oh look, there she is. I don't know. I love this part of the park, and I'm gonna give it 4.5 Frankenberries out of 5. The next stop on our journey through Universal Studios is Major Sweets Candy Factory, the next haunted house. You've been invited to chaperone a field trip to a candy factory, but this sweet tour is about to turn sour when free samples transform the kids into candy-coated killers wielding sharpened candies. I don't know, it wasn't that scary. It was kind of more crowded than anything. It wasn't that spooky for me. Kind of, again, loud noises, kind of like A Quiet Place. I'm gonna give it a 2 on the spooky rating. However, I will give it a 3 on the fun rating because there was a lot of silly little guys in there. However, immediately as you exit the candy factory, you enter the Blumhouse, which is the next scare zone. This scare zone had many characters from the Blumhouse properties, just like the Grabber from The Black Phone, Megan from Megan doing the Megan dance, guys from The Purge, Freaky, and Happy Death Day. I like a lot of these movies. My biggest complaint, however, was that they had zero mention or reference to Five Nights at Freddy's. I don't know. It really upset me. I was really hoping Freddy Fazbear would be up on a podium or something. He might have gotten attacked. Maybe that was the reason they were worried that Freddy Fazbear was gonna get attacked at the thing. But I don't know. A Springtrap would have been cool. A Freddy Fazbear would have been cool. Even a freaking cupcake just sitting like somewhere would have been cool, just to acknowledge the fact that Five Nights at Freddy's is a Blumhouse movie. Whatever. I don't know. I'm giving this 2.5 Frankenberries out of 5. However, there was not a lot of scare zones in this next part, but there was a lot of haunted houses. The first of which, depending on how you slice it, was Universal Monsters Eternal Bloodlines. And before we continue, I would like us all to acknowledge our tribal chief, Roman Reigns.
The OTC, baby! OTC! I acknowledge you! I love you, my tribal chief!
Join Saskia Van Helsing and the Bride of Frankenstein as they face off against Dracula's daughter and her monstrous alliance. I thought it was freaking awesome. I love when Universal does the Universal Monster Houses. It wasn't that spooky, so I'm gonna give it like the middle of the road, which is a 3. However, it was really fun. I think I'm gonna have to give this one 4.5 Frankenberries out of 5. It's something you gotta experience for yourself. It's the plot that I just said. However, right next to it was, if I was ranking these, could be in contention for the #1 best haunted house this year. It was Goblin's Feast. Oh my god. I said earlier that I love little creatures and all that. I loved Goblin's Feast. It wasn't that scary because I was giggling with glee the entire time, but I do have gigantophobia, and there was a giant goblin at one point, and it kind of did freak me out. Visit a goblin village where a hordes of bloodthirsty goblins, orcs, hobgoblins, and witches would love to have you for dinner. I thought this one was really funny, and there was just little goblins and critters everywhere. There was a sleeping goblin at one point. Like I said, there was a giant goblin at one point. I loved Goblin's Feast. 5 out of 5 Frankenberries. That was a really good haunted house. I loved Goblin's Feast, bro. The next haunted house was the museum, Deadly Exhibits. You decide to visit the new folklore museum exhibit, The Rotting Stone, when an evil escapes from within, destroying everything in its path. This one was literally Night at the Museum, except everyone turns evil and tries to kill you, so Night at the Museum. This one was kind of whatever. It had a lot of cool things in it. Like, there was a lot of people hiding on the walls that I couldn't see, and that was kind of spooky. It wasn't that spooky, though. I'm still giving it a 2 out of 5. But this also could just be a me thing. I could be desensitized to these haunted houses things. Maybe you take the fun meter more as an accurate scaling of the haunted houses. For this one, I give it a 3 on the fun meter because I thought it was a unique concept, and I am a big Night at the Museum fan, so I liked this one. If you've been to the park and seen it, I think my favorite scene in it was the boat scene. I thought that was cool. Slaughter Sinema 2. Yeah, that's right, 2. They made a sequel to a haunted house this year. I was never able to experience the original Slaughter Sinema, but God, I wish I did. I'm a big fan of the movies, and I love going to movie theaters. Therefore, this haunted house was really fun for me. If you're dying for a B-movie horror marathon, head to the Cary Drive-In. Scream through scenes from creature features, grindhouse gore, spaghetti westerns, and more. For starters, I would like to say that the fake movie trailers that they would play on the big drive-in movie theater screen at the beginning were really, really cool and a nice touch. Some of my favorite rooms of the house that I can remember were probably the Mardi Gras murder one. I don't know what that one was about, but it had a guy puking in it. I thought that was cool. Also, another side note, this isn't the first house where they have a guy puking and squirting water on you. That happens in this house, the Insidious house, and in the Candy Factory. What is going on? There was also like clowns in a cave or something. I don't know what that was about. There was another one that was in 3D, which was really cool. I don't know. I really like Slaughter Sinema 2, and I'm gonna give this one a 3 out of 5 on the spooky rating and a 4 out of 5 on the fun rating. The next themed area of the park was Swamp of the Undead, which was another scare zone. In Backwaters, Louisiana, you're about to be swamped by zombies born from the bodies of trespassers killed and dumped in a nearby bog. I tried to record this one, dude, but this part was so dark. I might have to steal footage for this. I thought this one was really cool. There was like fog a lot, so it looked like you were kind of walking in the water of the swamp. I think that's really cool. There was an alligator. There was a whole little treehouse area. I mean, it was just house in the swamp. I'm giving this one a 3.5. The next scare zone was Demon Queens, aka Surreal's scare zone. Remember at the beginning of the video where I talked about Duality of Fear, and you could go forward towards Torture Faire, where you would encounter a lot of gruesome things for Sinister, and if you go right, then you encounter a lot of stuff for Surreal, which is like mind control. Well, this was Surreal's scare zone. It was pretty cool to look at. They had like people being sucked into like portals and a lot of cool looking creatures that really felt the need to jump in my camera. But I don't know. I kind of liked it, so I'm giving it a 3. I'm giving it a 3. There's not much to say about it. However, that was the final scare zone in the mix. But finally, we are moving on to the final haunted house, which was Monstrous, the Monsters of Latin America. I thought this one was really, really cool, even though I did this one last because I thought it was gonna be kinda dumb. I don't know how to say any of the characters in this, so I'm not even going to attempt, but I'm going to describe them to you. And if you see that as a spoiler, skip. There's one person who's like a witch that steals babies. There's one guy who rips your spine out and looks kind of like Jeepers Creepers and Freddy Krueger. And then there's another one who is a giant bird for some reason, and they had a giant bird animatronic in the house, which was so cool. The whole premise of this haunted house was to tell the stories of these creatures from Latin America folklore. And basically the narrator of the whole thing was the Grim Reaper, Death, whatever you want to call him. And one thing I will say about this one was I was very, very spooked by it. So I'm giving this a 4 out of 5. And I will tell you what the main spook that got me was. It was there is a spoiler alert, Grim Reaper standing at the end of the haunted house, and he jumped right in my face. Great job, dude. You should get a raise, bro. I also really enjoyed all the characters in this one, so I'm giving this also a 4 on the fun rating. But yeah, that's about it for this week. Spooky day is soon approaching, and I hope you guys will have a great Halloween. There will be another video that is technically the Halloween special this year. Not a movie, but there will be another YouTube video that I think you guys will like, based on the track record of views in the past, like, 3 years. Okay, but that's about it. I'll see you guys next week.